And it is my pleasure today to introduce to you somebody that I already love. That's always the most fun. And she is Reverend Lydia Huston, an ordained ACIM Course in Miracles minister in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. She's been a vegan for 20 years, and she is a graduate of the T. Colin Campbell Foundation for Nutrition Studies. And like Sue, our reader of the tenets, she's a Main Street Vegan certified vegan lifestyle coach and educator. She's a personal chef and one of my favorite people. Welcome, Reverend Lydia.
Hi, Victoria.
Okay, so I would like to start, Lydia, with just finding out a little bit about yourself. Were you the kind of kid that people thought would grow up to be ordained and vegan?
Actually, I think, yes, I was very outside of the norm. I grew up in the inner city and lots of meat eating, dog fighting, things that were very disturbing to me. I believe when I was in 3rd grade, we went on a field trip to somewhere in Michigan. It was like a slaughter facility, but we weren't allowed to see anything disturbing. But some boys were making fun of something, and I wandered into a wrong area and saw something I never should have seen. And that really scarred me, but it shaped the person that I am today, because I think that animals, it's just a belief that I had then, but it was later confirmed that animals are sentient beings and they have souls. They want to live. They want to avoid violence. They want to be loving to their community, to their families.
Wow, when you described that, Lydia, and said that you shouldn't have been there, I wondered if that was what Gautama, the Buddha, thought when he was seeing the suffering in the world for the first time, and yet it led to beautiful teachings.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about your spiritual path, how you got to A Course in Miracles, and for those who don't know about it, what is it? What are the basic tenets?
Oh my goodness, I could talk about A Course in Miracles forever. But what led me to A Course in Miracles was a discipline that I began when I was 12. And when I was 12, it was the latter part of the 70s. And I guess I wandered into a bookstore and I found a book called Handbook to Higher Consciousness.
I remember that one.
Oh my God. Wasn't it back in the day? Okay, so I read this and I thought, wow, these are the keys to life. And I became a devotee of everything that Ken Kai's wrote, and I read all the books. But as I grew up, I realized that I couldn't adhere to the 12 pathways in every situation. Trauma, violence, I just couldn't connect with it. I was scared in these situations, and I thought, this isn't serving me completely. I mean, it's serving me in matters where I may be a little irritated or I might be angry about something, but fear, it didn't do a thing to it. I mean, and I thought, oh, wow, this doesn't work. And that realization made me afraid, because I had devoted years of my life, over a decade, to living these principles. And I didn't discover A Course in Miracles until I was actually teaching school. And I remember I was in line at a Borders, and a book a book just fell off a shelf and hit me on the back of the head, and I thought, because I was bent over picking up some books that I was trying to keep, and I thought, oh my God, what is this? And it was called The Disappearance of the Universe, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I'll read it while I'm in this longer than long line, and it just enthralled me. And I asked my mom to get me A Course in Miracles for Christmas, and the rest is history, because I connected so much with what the Course actually teaches. And this is the main principle. Every single one of us, whether we are animal, whether we are non-human animals, we deserve God's love and compassion. And it doesn't make a difference if we are animal advocates or if we are murderers. We all deserve the same compassion, and it's given to us freely by God. We don't have to earn it. We don't have to invoke it. It's just given to us. But we have to uncover all of the barriers that we place between us and God. And that's a great realization, and that removes fear.
I remember hearing Wayne Dyer quote from the Course, which is not something that I've studied, but I do remember this quotation. He said, if you knew who walked beside you every moment of this life that you have chosen, you could never be afraid. And often that comes to me, and I can just feel a peace just from that one line.
Oh, yes, I love that. There are so many ACIM quotes that I love, but one of my favorites is, the holiest of all the spots on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love.
Ooh. Can you do that one again?
Yes, the holiest of all the spots on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love.
Whoa. Oh, yeah, that's so interesting that you would say that, because William was telling me that he was going down Fifth Avenue yesterday, and he saw that where there had been a statue of this terrible man from long ago, but not long enough, he was a doctor, and he did experiments on women of color without their permission. And somebody decided that there should be a statue of him, and it was taken down 3 or 4 years ago, and evidently now they have put a big like bag over it. So I don't know, maybe they're going to do something else with it, or maybe. And I said, that's cool, there should be a bag over it, just so that people will say, what does that bag stand for? It stands for an ancient hatred, and maybe they can put some sort of memorial to a present love. Oh, that's cool. So what does it mean to be a student of A Course in Miracles? How does it change how you live your day-to-day life?
I guess there's a quote from Disappearance of the Universe that says, life is just one thing after another. And with the Course, it's just one thing after another. But when something calls for forgiveness, you do it.
And how do we do that? You talked about your slaughterhouse experience as a little girl, and we know that that experience is going on for animals day after day everywhere. How do we forgive not so much the people who are also abused by having to do that work, but the people who are profiting from it?
That's a really, really good question. And I'm glad you asked that, because the way all of us here look at animals, we see the Christ in them, their innocence, their love. I mean, it's not hard for us. And this is something that we have to transfer to the perpetrators, because without seeing them with the eyes of Christ, we can't be saved. And we can't save
So you've used the word Christ a few times, and I'm sure that's a real trigger word for a lot of people. So is A Course in Miracles Christian?
Actually, conventional Christians do not recognize the Course. No, they do not. And this is not traditional Christianity. I have to say that this is not a religion, it's a spirituality that calls for so much more than dogma. In fact, there is no dogma. There is only an experience, and the experience is forgiveness, but it's not a traditional Christian definition of forgiveness, because forgiveness in traditional Christian terms means that you recognize someone did something wrong and you pardon them. In A Course in Miracles, we recognize that no one, no one is without innocence. And we have to see the innocence in them, which means we have to see beyond their actions. We have to see beyond what this human form seems to be doing to other human forms. We have to look and we have to see the Christ in them. And that is asking a lot of all of us. But the Course, it's a difficult path to follow, but it is so rewarding. It brings you such peace if you can really do it.
So when you get up in the morning, what's your first thought every day?
Oh, okay. My first thought is to put the Holy Spirit in charge of my day. If it works, if you just take 5 minutes, it doesn't take like a whole hour of meditation, but 5 minutes of just connecting with the Holy Spirit and saying, this is going to be a difficult day, or it's going to be a wonderful day, but I want you with me and guiding all of my thoughts and actions. And that helps great deal. But it's just 5 minutes in the morning.
So if somebody wanted to look into this book, and I'll just be completely upfront with you, I tried to read it and it just didn't speak to me. And there was something in the very beginning when it said, maybe you won't read this book today, but you'll read this book someday, and it was almost like with all the traditions and all of the wisdom from all the millennia, it just seemed kind of, kind of like some of the things we say about conventional religion that we're not
Mhm.
crazy about.
You know what? The text of A Course in Miracles is extremely difficult to get through, and I know exactly what you're saying. Um, this book is just okay. It's amazing for one thing, but it is difficult. The text is difficult to get through. It is written almost entirely in Shakespearean blank verse, and this is not something that a lot of people want to connect with. Um, but if you if you read the text first, it'll give you like the metaphysics of A Course in Miracles. But again, just the text is not where you actually get the practice, because the workbook is really, really wonderful. And if you have like some background about what the course is about, like say you read Disappearance of the Universe or one of Gary Renard's other books, you get a background of the text, and maybe you can skip over the text and do the workbook, because the workbook is 365 lessons, daily lessons, although you can take more than a year to do it, because sometimes I stayed on a lesson 3 or 4 days because it really spoke to me. And sometimes things were going on in the family and I took off a few days, so it took me about a year and 4 months to get through the workbook. But it is so rewarding because it trains your mind to think in terms of forgiveness. And we don't just have to forgive the people that seem to treat us unfairly. we have to forgive situations we see on the news every day. It's the kind of forgiveness that recognizes the illusory nature of the world and how we need to get back to what's real, which is God, heaven, everything that is saved for us, if we can just remove all the obstacles to the awareness of it.
So when I look at your life, and coming from a yoga Vedanta background as I do, I would call you a karma yogi. I mean, you are just in there doing the work every day. Your spirituality, as from an outside point of view, is the action, is the selfless service. So I know you have a lot of family obligations, and you show up. So talk to us about that. You know, it's one thing we can talk about all the philosophical stuff, but in the nitty gritty of the day and the to-do list and what's expected, how do you bring your spirituality into that?
In certain families, there will be a focal person who sort of tries to hold things together. That used to be me, and it was draining. But when I found the course, it was no longer draining because I showed up in a different way. It didn't seem difficult for me to do the same things I did before the course, but now I'm doing it with the eyes of forgiveness, seeing innocence everywhere. No one's guilty, no matter what they've done, no matter how stressed it seems the situation is. Everyone's doing the best they can with the level of awareness they have. So I can show up, and the course is it's a happy form of spirituality. So you can laugh at life, at how, you know, ridiculous things can be. Showing up, for instance, at my niece's funeral, and we were all at the funeral home planning this somber event, and this was in Detroit, and I just remember thinking, gosh, Tia would really laugh at what's going on in the parking lot here. And for a minute, I just couldn't go inside the funeral home because I had to take a moment to laugh with Tia, my deceased niece, because I thought, this is just ridiculous that people are eating KFC like in the parking lot of a funeral home. And I thought, my God, this is, so I made it my duty to myself to find something humorous every single day. And sometimes it's nothing more than an interesting meme on on social media or something, but I definitely find the laughter, because the course says laughter is of the Holy Spirit. When you can genuinely laugh at life and everything life seems to be doing to you, you have reached a place of innocence and you have found your way back.
I love your repeated use of the term innocence, and you remind me of a line from one of my favorite movies, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. If you
Oh,
haven't
yes.
seen it.
I love it.
Yeah, well, I figured you would. 1969, Franco Zeffirelli, gorgeous movie about St. Francis and St. Clare. And after a arduous journey, people weren't liking what St. Francis was doing, and he said, well, he's going to go to the Holy Father and get it checked out. So he makes his way to Rome, and he gets his audience with the Pope, and everybody wants him kicked out. And the Pope says, we have gotten so concerned about original sin that we have forgotten original innocence. And yeah, and then I think about, you know, the Innocence Project that's doing wonderful work in the world. What a great word, maybe a word to use more often. Innocent. I've noticed on some of the court shows, they don't say innocent anymore. They just say not guilty. Whatever happened to innocent?
What happened to that? They took the innocence right out of our judicial system.
So I want to ask you a kind of devil's advocate question, Lydia. We know that probably the best known proponent of A Course in Miracles is Marianne Williamson, who is not to date vegetarian, as far as I know. And
Still, yeah.
okay. And so many other people who are involved in really forward thinking, spiritual kinds of organizations, they still eat animals. I mean, ugh. Why are people who are otherwise so open-minded so hard to reach with this message?
Someone once told me that trying to change someone's diet is harder to do than to change their religion. I mean, it is actually really difficult. And I know that I've been to a lot of ACIM conferences, and the focus, a lot of the focus after all of the lectures and the great talks, the food. And it's really all you can eat, and there are animal products flying here and there. And I guess because the course teaches us not so much what happens out here or what we do as far as behavior, but the way we think. And a lot of people are disconnected from the suffering that actually goes into preparing like delicious food that they're used to eating. And so no one makes that connection too often unless you came to ACIM already vegan, which I did. I guess the point of view as far as ACIM is concerned is that if you're coming from a place of love, and we are all coming from a place of love for animals, love for life, love for other people and their suffering, I guess that it can be difficult for people to actually say, well, I'm very spiritual, but it doesn't matter what you eat, because it matters more what your spirit is, or what you're thinking and your mind. But actually, I have to say that, like, being vegan, all of us, it's our chosen path. It is our chosen path, and we need to act our parts with honor, no matter what's going on out there. But so I never really talked to anyone in ACIM or the Community Miracles Center where I was ordained. I never really talked to anyone about becoming vegan, but I just acted my part with honor, and I was very vegan. So hopefully, something trickled off, and and people caught on. But yeah, I do notice that, like, when the reverends, all of the reverends who were ordained that day, we were all ordained like on my birthday, I think. And we went out to dinner. Oh, by the way, dinner was at a wonderful restaurant where ex-convicts served us. And it was really great. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but I just remember, wow, this is really awesome.
Where was that?
San Francisco.
Oh, cool. Because we have one in New York, which is also vegan.
Really?
Yeah, our compassion and action person, April Tam Smith, is a co-owner. Yeah, PS Kitchen. It says nonprofit restaurant. And I don't know if it's 100% of the staff, but a high percentage of the staff were either incarcerated or homeless prior.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Victoria.
Wonderful idea.
That's a date. We have to do that. Okay.
Okay. That's a promise then. So just really quickly before our time is up, I told you this would be quick. I just learned, it's funny how you can know somebody for a long time, like I knew that you were always making smoothies in the morning, but
Mhm.
lots of people make smoothies in the morning. And I didn't know until this morning that you follow the principles of the medical medium,
Mhm.
which is kind of an interesting spiritual slant on food and stuff.
It
So
is.
just tell us a little bit about how you eat and what you drink.
Okay, wow, this is okay. So in the morning, I begin with lemon water, like 32 ounces. And I know 32 ounces is a lot, but you can really drink 32 ounces no matter how small you are. Later on, I will shower, get dressed, brush my hair, go back downstairs and juice celery. And I'll have 32 ounces of celery juice. Now, while I'm cleaning the celery juicer and doing other things like making my husband's breakfast, making breakfast for the dogs, I will make myself a smoothie. And the first smoothie I make is probably the liver rescue smoothie, which is really yummy. It's just papaya, dragon fruit, um, coconut water, and lots of blueberries. I think a heaping 2 cups of blueberries. And I don't like the taste of papaya too much, so I usually just substitute bananas. But that's the first smoothie of the day, and it's huge. It's like 32 ounces. So yeah, that's so I'm so full in the morning that I'm not hungry until lunchtime, which I'll have the heavy metal detox smoothie for lunch, which is probably why I never gain weight, because those 2 meals are so filling. But dinner, I might just have steamed vegetables, and sometimes I'll have millet bread, which I make from scratch or something like that. So I do avoid radical fats usually, but occasionally I will treat myself to some really good vegan chocolate. Uh, which
Well,
I'm not.
speaking of spiritual, sometimes there's nothing closer to God than a little vegan chocolate. Thank you so much, Reverend Lydia
Yep.
Huston. You are a light.